Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast on demographic challenges for the EU.
Demography matters. It matters for the economy, for the labour market, for healthcare and pensions, even for election results. But future demographic trends in the EU are not encouraging.
No, they're not. A number of demographic challenges, such as the declining birth rate, an ageing population, and depopulation of some of its regions, threatens the future demographic stability of the continent. So what are the EU and its member states doing about it? Stay with us.
Today, the EU represents an ever-shrinking proportion of the world population, 6.9% compared to 13.5% in 1960, and it's expected to fall to just 4.1% by the end of the century.
This is partly explained by the low fertility rates, as the numbers of children being born has fallen from an EU 28 average of around 2.5 children per woman in 1960 to a little under 1.6 today. This is far below the 2.1 births per woman considered necessary to maintain a stable population in the long term.
Apart from shrinking, the EU population is also clearly ageing. Due to advances in medicine and quality of life, we live longer than ever before. 81 years on average, and Europe's population is also becoming more urban.
Indeed, as opportunities multiply in and around cities, some rural areas face difficult challenges linked to depopulation, and all these trends will have profound implications on the health sector, the labour market, our pension systems, or the capacity of governments to raise tax revenue and balance their own finances.
To grasp the magnitude of the challenge, just consider this figure. In 2006, there were 4 people of working age for each person over 65. By 2050, there will only be 2.
Yes, that says enough. Freedom of movement, as well as external migration, can play a role in increasing the EU's future population. However, current migration levels are insufficient to overturn the decline. So what is the EU doing about all these challenges? Stay with us.
Well, EU member states have developed their own strategies and policies to counteract the demographic decline, but the EU has limited legal powers in this area.
These national strategies include different measures, such as incentives for families to have more children in the form of allowances or better childcare services, raising the retirement age, as well as encouraging more flexible forms of work.
Efforts have also gone into increasing the attractiveness of regions that are losing population. For instance, through better education and healthcare provisions, job opportunities and support for young entrepreneurs.
In Spain, for instance, a country with a big rural depopulation problem, the national and regional governments are helping young farmers to stay in business, creating more education and job opportunities for women, or supporting the digitalisation of the agri-food chain, a very important sector for Spain.
The economic capacity and the potential for innovation in rural and urban areas is also part of the German government's demographic strategy, which aims at increasing prosperity for all generations and improving their quality of life. But there are many other measures in the fields of education, mobility or social protection.
Poland, to mention just another country, has focused more on supporting big families, either with direct allowances and better childcare facilities, or by supporting mothers who had to stop working in order to raise their children. So, you see that strategies vary in their focus and approach.
Indeed. Now, when it comes to the EU level, we have to talk more of an auxiliary role in tackling demographic challenges. In social policy, the promotion of employment, the improvement of living and working conditions, social protection or the fight against exclusion are shared objectives between the EU and its member states. And the EU has a number of tools and funds to achieve these.
Likewise, in the health sector, responsibility lies primarily in the hands of member states, but the EU helps promote healthier lifestyles and promotes cooperation between health authorities to ensure the highest possible level of care for all patients in the EU.
Through the European Structural and Investment Funds, the Cohesion Fund or the Regional Development Fund, the EU also helps lagging regions catch up with the rest. So what more can the EU do in the future?
Well, for the first time ever, the EU's executive has a dedicated Commissioner for Democracy and Demography, who has already expressed her intention to undertake an extensive mapping exercise and look at how to best support rural areas in need.
The new Commission is also expected to launch a broad debate on the long-term impacts of ageing, notably on care and pensions, and on how to foster active ageing.
At the same time, we need to bear in mind that the coronavirus crisis has had quite an impact in demography, as COVID-19 has caused many deaths among the elderly, especially in the northern Italian regions and some Spanish regions.
And as some early studies already suggest, this will have a considerable impact on EU population trends.
Yes, it will. Now, the European Parliament has taken demographic issues seriously in its many reports and opinions. It is called to better support rural areas and ensure they remain an attractive life option for European citizens. It has suggested to use the European Structural Investment Funds in synergy with other EU funds to provide real solutions to pressing demographic challenges.
And as the issues of demography gain importance in the EU policy agenda, the European Commission has recently presented a report on the impact of demographic change.
Both the European Parliament and the European Committee of the Regions are also preparing their own reports and opinions on demography issues, but it remains to be seen whether the ongoing works and discussions will spur new actions to avoid the perhaps unavoidable decline of the EU population in the long term.
You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.